Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we are going to dive into Transformers 1, provide some fun facts, trivia, and overall review. But first, introduction. I'm Onyx Prime. With me are my wonderful, fabulous, clever co-hosts.
Hi, I'm Killobyte.
And I'm Clickbait.
And I'm Hexamis.
Thank you so much for being here, Hex.
Surprise!
Surprise! Moving
Always a
on
delight.
with our Transformers 1 movie review. Wow, what a sentence. And as always, spoiler warning. So if you haven't seen it already, we highly recommend you go and watch the movie, then come listen to the podcast. With that, Clickbait, would you mind giving us the facts? And Hex, do you mind giving us the trivia?
Absolutely. For our fast facts today, the budget for this movie was somewhere between 75 and 147 million, and thus far it has made 72 million, which is a big number to me, but not a big number to movie people. Year released, September 20th, 2024, although it did have a couple of earlier screening dates and is still yet to be released in some other countries. Writer for the movie was Eric Pearson, Andrew Barrere, and Gabrielle Ferrari. It was directed by Josh Cooley.
Coming in with some trivia. Let's see. Many of the miners based on recognizable characters appear multiple times in the background or between shots. This could be a purposeful nod to G1 or an attempt to save time and resources and focus on the storytelling. In one scene, we see a cogless miner who clearly looks like Ratchet. However, during the Icon 5000 race over the intercom, someone's paging a Dr. Ratchet. During the ending scenes where Arachnid's mind is used as a plot point, shows scenes of the movie instead of her point of view, with the most obvious scene that has her in the memory fully visible.
An interesting take.
Yeah.
Wonder if somebody made a mistake there.
Uh-oh. Kilbyte, do you mind giving us a summary of this movie?
Yeah, well, Orion, Pax, and D16 are the bestest of friends, but as they uncover the truth of Cybertron's greatest victory, they grow further apart and change Cybertron forever.
Really? They do, huh? I wonder what they do.
Lots of things. They do lots of things.
I
Onyx.
wonder.
And as always, a special shout out to all of our Patreon. Thank you so much for the support.
Thank
You're
you
all
so
amazing.
much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you and you
MVP.
and you and you
And you in the back.
Wow, this list is getting
Even
long.
you,
And you
way back there.
Why do we have so many U's?
They,
Oh,
them.
It's a figure of speech.
or you've never heard of Uatron? Anyway, are
my
you
Primus.
ready to get started?
Always.
Ready?
Let's roll.
Fantastic. So first we're going to talk about each character and then we'll get into spoilers. So first up on the list is Orion Pax, who starts off as a character who is quick to make decisions without thinking, gets into trouble a lot, but always has his best friend D16's back. Throughout this movie, we see his character arc grow and slowly mature and realize his actions do have consequences and becomes more careful, steps into a leader role towards the end. And I feel like his character arc very much mirrors Hot Rod in the 86 films, but that could just be me a personal preference.
I would have to agree. I feel like they definitely did keep, elements of the Orion Pax that we're more familiar with. He's a dreamer. He's very much into history, which is, in typical iterations of dealing with Orion Pax, he's a librarian and not a miner. So I did like that even though they shifted his occupation, they still kept that yearning for history and the yearning for knowledge. And that's kind of what helps to fuel him on his journey towards becoming the Optimus Prime that we know. Is he's like, hey, this has happened before. My actions have consequences. Historical actions have consequences. Oh, dang. I gotta be careful.
When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
Orion Pax is very, very fun. I do like that he's the first character we get introduced, and he kind of starts off running in the sense that he's not super serious and he's all about laughs, and especially when he runs away from the two guards. That was a pretty hilarious scenes. So, but even though he was the quirky, funny character at the start, he still had the sense of leadership, especially when they're in the mines and he's making sure everybody's okay and all that. So that was pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. He was a little bit carefree and more humorous than we typically see the iterations of Orion Pax being portrayed. It was fun. It was fun to see him kind of loosen up a little bit. I do kind of wish they kept him slightly more contemplative, but it was fun to see this really younger side of him, and they did it well. It didn't feel too cheap or chintzy.
He's just a rambunctious little guy.
Yeah, he's just a little guy.
He wants some fun.
Are we ready to move on to our next character?
I think so.
I'm ready.
Perfect. So next we have D16, Orion Pax's best friend. A stick-to-the-rules bot who dreams of being something more. Easily persuaded by his friend Orion Pax, through the events of the film, we see him put his trust in others and get betrayed, lied to, or others not living up to what they said they would do. This is how we see his descent and split from Orion and decide to take action to bring change rather than using the system in place that oppresses him and many others. What are our thoughts?
I like D16. I like that he was the anchor to Orion's quirkiness and goofiness. And it reminded me a lot of the 2019 comics when we see them jump from the elevator. So I can clearly see D16 and Orion here doing the same kind of thing where they're just kind of like living their best life and just trying to find something else to do than is just not being in the mines. So I really enjoyed their interactions together.
It definitely felt like at first their roles were almost reversed to where we typically see them. You know, Orion was the one that was going out and accidentally getting them into trouble, and D16 was the one who was like, hey, we should follow the rules. But it does prove to be a very, very important plot point later, and they do handle the transition back into these characters that we're familiar with very, very well. You know, D16, he sees everything in black and white. You follow the rules or you don't follow the rules. And poor Orion Pax, who sees everything kind of in shades of gray, it's like, no, this is only mostly a bad idea. It's fine. And D16 is like, it either is or it isn't. Like, you've got to pick one. So it was fun to watch how seeing things in black and white and you're loyal or you're disloyal, you're with me or you're against me, how he sees things in these absolutes started to kind of become his downfall and become the issue, create this pride before the fall that we see as he transitions into Megatron.
I absolutely agree. I really like his keep your head down, stay out of trouble, just get your way through life sort of attitude. I absolutely get where he's coming from, and to see that change and progress and really flip, like essentially 180 during the whole movie is really, really fun to see.
Yeah, it was really nice to see because you saw him keep his head down, but the moment he was in a position where he had more power, he had the ability to make a change. His confidence got boosted, and then we got to see his true colors.
Right.
Yes,
it was almost like he didn't
wonderful.
become the Megatron that we knew until he had the chance to have that power, which in most of the iterations where we see Megatron, he starts off powerful. So this was a fun take. Well, what if he didn't have any power yet? What would he do? And it's still that see things in black and white, fight or surrender. It's the same thing, just applied in a different scenario, a different environment.
We're ready for our next main character?
Yes.
Ready?
Our next character is B127, or Bumblebee. Honestly, not my favorite bee, but he's a bright yellow and loud bot who helps bring the seriousness tones of this movie and some scenes down to the sillies and help make the film into a kid-friendly movie, except for his one joke he mentions 4 times. However, we don't really see character arc for him. He's kind of just the goofball of the group and the yellow bright colors.
He's the comedic relief.
Bot.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I agree. Not my favorite iteration of B we've had. He was still fun. He was still sweet. I feel like we've kind of lost he's still a warrior. He's still an Autobot. He's still capable of fighting. And the emphasis has been placed more on, oh yeah, but he's cute and he's funny and he's the youngest, so he just kind of does dumb things. Whereas you can still be cute and fun and lighthearted and still be able to carry out a function. But he was still funny aside from that very last. I making the first couple times it was really funny, and then he's like, Pedestron, and you're like, I should laugh, but
We
You've
get
said
it.
this 3 times already. We get it. But the first couple times, it was hysterical. I thought it was fabulous the first couple of times. I was very much entertained by him.
It's funny because the previous iterations, he doesn't speak at all,
Mhm.
which I personally am not a fan of, because it's sort of, especially with a couple other movies, it's sort of infantilizing him, of making him baby. He can't talk, he
Mhm.
can't fight, he baby. Now he's talking a lot, which it's
And he's
flipped,
still baby.
and he's still baby, but like I think he's finding his footing at least a little bit.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I'll take that he talks. Like, that's to me a bit of a
Yeah.
benefit, although it's a lot. It's a lot of talking, but
Yeah.
What do you think, Kilo?
Yeah. They used him. He's literally the comedy relief of the movie. Because I feel I don't know. I guess we'll talk about this a little bit later. But a lot of the scenes where he's just making jokes and kind of lighting the mood because there's a lot of fighting towards the end of the movie, and I do like his design, but I'm
Mhm.
not quite sure still of how I feel about this bee. It's just like I
Yeah,
laughed. That's kind of about it.
they definitely felt different. Their character felt more like the voice actor, like Keegan Michael
Mhm.
Key,
Mhm.
who plays almost the same character in most of their other movies. But we'll
Yeah.
dive
And
into that as we move
hmm.
on.
mhm.
Are we ready for our last main character?
Yes,
Mhm.
and the most important.
The most
The most
important, Alita
important.
1, a strong, independent leader who tries to do her best, very stick to the rules, and is doing everything she can to make her life better and those around her, unless disobey an order. She acts like the voice of reason to the group and very much the quote unquote straight man of the group is like, I don't want to deal with anything else. You guys are the crazy ones. I'm just
Mhm.
doing my job.
Mhm.
I liked her a lot. She's very fun.
Mhm.
She carries. I don't want to say carries the movie, but like she's definitely the voice of reason, and she's the one that kind of helps Orion kind of transition into like leave the goofiness behind a little, and like bots are looking for you for answers at this point, so it's
Mhm.
time to step up. So I like that transition there, but she is just an amazing leader and fighter. So I'm very happy that they kind of stuck to the Alita traits that we know.
Yeah,
Mhm.
very good portrayal of Alita, I think.
I liked her a lot. I do feel like she was another one who acted very, very similar to her actress. I felt like they could have done a couple things to kind of give her a little bit more depth, maybe give her some higher stakes in the movie, give her something she had to overcome. I very much felt like she was very, very accomplished throughout this whole movie. She was, very professional, great leader. She stayed on top the entire movie. She didn't really have like a low point where she overcame anything. So her character journey they could have done something with, but I feel like they still did a great job. It's always super fun seeing Alita. It was super fun seeing her be a total badass. I'm a fan of stakes. I want to see the characters have stakes that they're up against. And her biggest stake was pushing Orion, which don't get me wrong, is a big stake, but it wasn't really personal to her. But I still loved her
Maybe
and she was fabulous.
maybe if there is a sequel, maybe we can see more of that. Because
I'm always down to see more Alita.
I agree. I feel like the focus of this movie obviously is on Orion Pax and D16,
Yes.
so it doesn't
Yes.
leave a ton of room for the other characters to sort of flourish and grow. But
Mhm.
I love her, and I think it was Lala Lita who said that Scarlett Johansson's voice, that bit of rasp, is really, really nice for Alita's
Yes, I
voice.
Mhm.
agree.
It
Mhm.
sort of gives her a bit of an edge, and just like you can tell that she's tired and that she's been through the ringer.
She's been babysitting for days.
She's been babysitting a bunch of men for way too long.
I
She's
feel that.
tired.
The mines.
The mines.
The
Oh,
mind.
I love her.
Are we
She's
ready to
great.
talk about spoilers and plot, start to finish?
Ooh,
Yes, I'm here for it.
yes.
Here for it.
I'm ready. Sorry.
Fantastic. Listeners, this is your
I'm ready.
final warning. Turn back now.
Spoilers.
Watch the
More
movies
than so
because
far.
spoiler train is a coming. So,
Choo
start to
choo.
finish. We start off as minors, Orion Pax, Alita 1, D16, who get into trouble, break the rules, bend them, what have you. They go on a redemption quest to find the matrix of leadership. They discover all the primes are dead.
Oh no.
Kind of a shocker, honestly.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
It
was,
was fun.
I was excited
They were
to
like,
see them.
the primes, they're dead. Oh no. Except for Alpha Trion, who's not
for
dead.
Alpha Prime.
Another surprise.
Surprise! They're not all dead. He's just mostly dead.
Does that make him a zombie?
I mean, he still had his spark, so he's not a
This is true,
sparkless,
yes,
so
it's
he's
true.
not a zombie.
Yet.
But he could be in part 2.
He could be in part 2.
Wow. No, it's
They-
too early for Dark Energon.
They then discover they were lied to by Sentinel Prime. Sentinel Prime
Dun,
is the one who's
dun.
been making everyone be miners and has been pushing everyone to collect Energon and conveniently stole their T-Cog so they would lack the power/courage to stand up for themselves. Alpha Trion, who they discovered in the cave, grants them T-Cogs using Onyx, Alchemist, Solus, and Prima Primes. Wow, what a sentence. T-Cogs. Which gives them the power to change shape and the destiny of
Woo!
Transformers. See there? Change your fate. Anyway,
Wow.
we discover
Oh my gosh.
that Sentinel got Magnus's T-Cog. That's a little later down the road because he's the
Me-
coolest, strongest
Megatronus
Prime.
is-
Megatron is not
Megatron is-
Magnus.
You said Magnus is.
Yeah, sorry. We discover Sentinel Prime got Megatronus's T-Cog when he murdered the Prime.
Oh no!
Dun,
Ultimate
Trying to
dun,
make a
dun.
deal with the
Who-
Quintessence in exchange to give them energy.
Quintessons.
Quintessons. Yeah, Quintessons.
Where's Quintessa?
No!
Oh.
In exchange to give them resources and energon so he could rule Cybertron the way he saw fit.
Guys, Sentinel was the bad guy. Who would have
Weird.
thought?
Oh my
Who
god.
would've
But
thought?
he's such a good bad guy,
He's
though.
he is a
It
great
reminds me of
bad
the
guy.
bad guy from Robots.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
Wow, yeah,
yes,
actually.
what a callback. That's
What a
great Earth
coincidence.
movie.
It's
Upgrade.
both robot movies. It's the
Oh
same
my
guy.
God.
Upgrades, people, upgrades.
I will say, I remember watching one of the first trailers, and they were like, "We don't have T-Cogs, we can't transform." And I was like, but isn't that like the point
Isn't
of
that what Transformers
Cybertronians to
Yeah.
transform? So I was really concerned about like what
Mhm.
that meant. So seeing it play out this way was like, oh, cool. This is a really cool way to do it.
Yeah, and I had been concerned at first that they were going to give Megatronus's T-Cog and be like, oh no, he only turned evil because of the T-Cog. But they didn't do that, and I was so excited about the way that they handled his descent into madness. And honestly,
Was it
like
madness? Or
Well, he's
Or
not
descent
mad yet.
into-
He's not mad yet.
he's not
Yeah.
mad yet. His descent
No.
into the more
Revenge?
tyrannical Megatron that we've
Mhm.
seen thus far. But yeah, it was super fun to see the primes. I was a little confused about the timeline at first.
Yeah,
But
I
it
don't know
was-
how long 50 cycles is. It's anywhere
Because-
between 50 years or 500 or 500,000. No idea.
Well,
This math is so hard.
the Transformers community does need to get their
Yeah,
units
it's
of time
hard.
straight, because I'd always
Yeah.
considered cycles like a while or like a little over a week or something, but then it's clearly been many years between the fall of the primes and
Yeah.
the start of how everything has happened, because Sentinel could not have just stolen everybody's T-Cogs, which, by the way, knew he was going to be the bad guy, was absolutely shocked when I heard that.
Yeah.
Absolutely floored.
Oh,
Really?
I saw that coming.
That's crazy.
Since the
Maybe
trailer
because we've
said,
read
like-
more comics and watched the other movies where Sentinel is always the bad guy.
No, I knew he was going to be the bad guy, but I figured I didn't
know
know
how
what they were
bad.
going to do with the T-Cogs. And they're like,
Mm.
no, I've been robbing them from your newborn bodies. Sir?
Way
What
worse.
the
Savage.
heck?
Way worse.
What
we,
is
we,
that?
Savage.
we talked about
Yeah.
it in our trailer breakdown. When the first
Yeah.
trailer came out, I was like, I bet the Quintessons are like overseeing, and so that's why how they're keeping them in check is by removing the T-Cogs.
Yeah, I thought it would have been like the
Oh.
Quintessons doing
Well,
it,
aren't
though,
you
when they were
just
like,
as
nah,
mad?
this is all Sentinel. I was like, oh my god.
Well, he is working with them, so technically it's like,
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
related.
Mm.
Which, by the way, is when Megatron's like, oh, heck nah.
Yeah.
This guy's gotta
We-
go. This guy's gotta go.
Yeah.
Definitely get our first look at the divide between Orion and D16, because Orion
Mhm.
wants to expose Sentinel, use the system in place, bring him to justice. Megatron wants Sentinel to pay for his crime and murder him. He doesn't want the system because the system is broken as is. He
Mhm.
wants to change it, strip it down. And I think that's fantastic to see these two
Just
different
wanna transform
outlooks.
it.
Oh
He
my.
wants to make
Yes.
a change.
Oh.
I like that this is the part because we see them at the cave after they get the T-Cogs. When this scene happens where they see Sentinel interacting with the Quintessons and seeing all that. But after that, we get their transformation scenes, which I thought was pretty hilarious because they're running away and they're half transformed.
It was
Like somebody has
adorable. It was
a
really
tire,
cute.
the other one is have a tank. So that
They're just
scene was
struggling
pretty
so
fun.
hard.
Yeah, especially when they're running and screaming, and then the guards just turn around and be like, "Oh, they're right there!" Like that was pretty good.
Yeah. It's wonderful scene. Which
Very
we
funny.
then run into the High Guard led by Starscream, who believes only the strongest should rule, which resonates with Megatron and takes charge of the High Guard, beginning the abusive relationship with Starscream by beating him in front of his own men.
Pretty early on.
I mean, he kind of
Early
asked
on.
for it.
He
He
was
was like,
he
I'm in
did.
charge because
too.
I'm the strongest, and that's why I'm in charge. And Megatron went, all right, cool. I'm stronger than you. Let's fight.
Yeah.
And
I'ma prove
Starscream
it.
kind of had it coming. He was like, okay, let's fight. You're nothing. And Megatron was like, yeah, but I'm angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Angie.
Yeah.
Which was
Starscream
great.
tried
I
to
loved
use
it.
the Obi-Wan method, being like, I have the high ground, but that doesn't matter here. That doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter.
He
was
Megatron
funny.
reminded him that's a different story.
Different story.
Arachnid attacks them, takes B-127, D-16 as prisoners, while Orion Pax and Alita 1 get recruits from the remaining High Guards and miners to attack the Citadel, rescue/expose Sentinel for his crimes. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Get him.
Alpha Trion is gone. No.
Yes, Alpha Trion gets
No,
murdered. He gets
Albatron.
axed
sad.
by the famous blade of Sentinel from the movies.
The scene where Orion is recruiting the miners. I really enjoy that scene. Mostly because I was like, "Ooh, it's that character! Ooh, it's that other character!
Yeah.
Ooh, it's this guy!"
Yes,
So
yes,
that was
oh
very
my God.
fun. So,
Yeah,
There's
it
a
was
lot of them.
fun
yeah.
seeing all the characters, but I was kind of like, I wish you weren't all minors. Like, we gotta get. But I understand why they did it because they had so little time to cover such a huge story and so much character development between these two guys. They were like, they got to see everybody. Everybody's together. We'll
They're
branch
all
them out
G1,
later.
right? The Generation 1 is all together. They all grow up
Right.
together.
And I get that. I was like, but we got to see some occupational variety. But still loved it.
Dr. Ratchet.
Yeah, there he is. right
Dr.
there.
Ratchet, not Ratchet.
Yeah, Dr. Ratchet, not Ratchet. And
But
then Chromia winning the race.
Dreadwing.
It did add for a really, really cool visual as you're watching Optimus Prime rally these characters that you know and love. So it definitely was a switch I think they made consciously where they were like, no, we want these people, these characters that people resonate with to be the ones that are inspired by Orion Pax, which was super cool. It was fun to see him do his thing and do his little public speaking and get everybody all rallied up.
Yeah,
And it was really him
from Alpha
coming
Trion.
into Optimus. Yeah. Hey, listen.
Hey, he's an
Sometimes
optimist.
someone else said it better.
He's optimistic.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
So- D-16 is branded with Megatronus' face by Sentinel and takes on the name of Megatron eventually and attempts to murder Sentinel. Orion gets in the way and gets absolutely blasted by Megatron. And this is where we see the friendship meets their final string on thread, which then snaps as D-16 lets go of Orion, falling over the edge and into the pit.
I was gutted. Oh,
Oh,
I
it's so
know.
good. The
Yeah, it
emotions in the
hurt.
scene, so good.
It
And the
was
next
so
scene that follows.
So good.
I like the transition in his optics where they go
Yes.
from orange to red.
yes.
And then he's
Yes.
like, we're done, and just drops
Yeah.
him.
Oh.
And then you just see him turning gray as he falls. That was pretty.
It was so good. You
It's-
can see some of the red in his optics earlier in the movie when he gets
Yes, you
angry.
can. Yeah.
And it's
It's such
great.
a
I love the little
I
detail.
love it.
It was wonderful. And it was super cool to watch Megatron's values be pitted against Megatron's friendship. And so we see him struggling with this black and white, with this loyalty versus disloyalty this entire time. And when he sees Sentinel has committed an ultimate betrayal and everything he's told him has been a lie, everything he's worked towards, all of his efforts in life have been for absolutely nothing. Megatron draws a line in the sand. And
Mhm.
when Orion goes, hey, no, that's not right. You don't kill him. Let Justice do it. Justice
don't
has
be
already
like
failed
Sentinel,
Megatron.
is what he
Justice
said.
Justice has already failed Megatron. He doesn't care. And so you see this, it was black and white, now it's you're with me or you're against me. And when Orion steps in front of that blaster bolt, he's now Megatron's enemy. And so it was super interesting to watch him go through that transition. But he's my friend. But how could he do this if he was my friend?
I thought
Maybe
he
he's
stood
not my
with
friend.
me.
I thought you were with
Mhm.
me. If you're not with me, you're against me. If you're against me, you're no better than Sentinel, and you too should die. And it was really, really cool to watch him go through that
Mhm.
in those moments that they've been building up through the entirety of the film.
And the voice acting in this scene, you can feel the
Oh my
emotion. You can
gosh.
feel the cracking in his voice when you can tell when Megatron is feeling like betrayed. Like
Mhm.
he deserves to die. Like he cracks his voice. It's
Yeah.
really good. And like it's parallels. A lot of this build up, this scene in particular, we're probably gonna spend a lot of time in this scene because there's parallels earlier in the movie with
Yes.
it. Like the
Yes.
part where Orion is falling off the edge. That happens earlier in the movie too, and they pull each other up. Like
Mhm.
each of them have a chance where they both go over the edge of something and they both
Right.
pull the other up. Not here though, because their
But-
trust has been broken down.
And the crazy thing is, D16 does grab Orion's hand as he falls over the edge. And that's when he realizes, wait a second, you just defended the bot who ruined our lives, ruined everyone's lives, and you chose to spare him? You're no better than he is.
Good riddance.
Yeah, good
Mhm.
riddance. I hope you die, and lets him go. And you're just like, oh, like we knew it was gonna happen, but
But it hurts.
it hurts. It hurts. And Megatron's affinity for only being able to see that black and white, his pride over his ability to, his pride over his logic really truly is his downfall and what drives him to become the Megatron that we all know. I'm right, no matter what. We have the same ideas, but my way is the right way because the way you want to do has failed before.
Mhm.
And by saying you want to do something else, you're my enemy. Thus, through tyranny, we get peace because people can't be trusted to control themselves. Oh,
I would
it
love
was
to get
so
those
cool
red
to watch.
optics
Right?
contact because that's what turns him bad. You know, he should have not.
Oh my gosh.
But shortly after this scene, we get a lovely, well-crafted side-by-side scene of Megatron killing Sentinel, pulling out Megatronus's T-Cog, and then transforming into his big baddie self. And Orion being deemed, well, he's dead. He's being deemed worthy by Primus at the center of sorry, at the center of
He's dead.
Cybertron for his self-sacrifice and given the Matrix of Leadership being reborn, insert Jesus meme here, changing him into Optimus Prime. Optimus and Megatron fight for the balance of Cybertron until finally Prime wins, exiles Megatron from Icon. Energon is restored, end of movie. Except, wait, there's not the end of the movie.
Oh, wait,
At
there's
the
more.
end of that scene, Megatron is put on the iconic Decepticon logo, telling his army to rise up. Now end movie.
Now I
Dun, dun, dun.
It was
What are
so
our
cool
thoughts?
watching that side by side, that parallel.
Oh, good.
One chooses violence, one chooses peace, which is still kind of violence, but he chooses a different way of going about it.
Let
He
me
gives him a
peacefully
chance.
tell you stop.
Yeah. He says, why, let's be friends. Sentinel's gone. No, you chose to spare him. You have taken his place as my
Mhm.
enemy. You're
Well,
not with
just
me.
that, right? He took on the title of Prime. Everything Megatron
Had
hates
ever
now,
wanted.
was fighting,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
right?
everything he hates, everything he was
Yeah,
fighting against,
everything
the
was
title
fighting
he
for,
thought
yeah.
he should have to prevent it from happening
Mhm.
again has been swept away from him by Orion
Mhm.
Pax, who has just betrayed him. This is betrayal on betrayal on betrayal for Megatron.
Well, he betrayed being killed too. Like he was supposed to stay
I
dead.
know. Poor guy, just can't catch a break.
Oh, and the red. We talked about the red optic during the side by
Mhm.
side. Megatron is fighting some of the bots, still protecting Sentinel. Don't know why, because all the secrets out. Why would you do this? Anyway, weird.
Mhm.
We see the red lines of his optics glaring
that was
across the
so
screen.
cool, the red
So
trail.
cool.
Yes, that was really a nice little touch.
It
Mhm.
really was. It was really, really well done, really cool. The choreography was so dynamic and fun. The fight scenes were really, really well put together. You felt
Mhm.
in the action. Don't even get me started on Brian Tyler as the composer for this. He's amazing. He's a genius. I love him.
Good stuff.
I
Oh,
was
and
really
he had homages to all the other Transformers movies and shows that we've had previously.
I was just gonna say, I was really floored when they show Megatron just ripping Sentinel in
I
half.
know.
It's
Right.
so gruesome and somehow graphic, even though there's no.
Probably the most graphic scene we saw so far.
Yeah.
Optimus grabbing another bot and then starts to transform,
That was pretty
wrapping them to
brutal
pieces.
too.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
That was
But
a fun scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
that
was.
was really fun. But I love that as he's ripping him apart, it just cuts to Sentinel's gray body just thudding to the ground, no movement
So good.
whatsoever.
It was
Ooh,
really good. Really
it's
well
very
done.
satisfying.
I half thought they were going to replicate the scene from the Autocracy series, where Megatron, in this case, it was Zeta that they were fighting. They teamed up together, where he shoves the barrel underneath his chin and then fires. I think that would have been cool too, but what they did was
True.
also fantastic.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
might have been a
And I
little bit
think-
too much.
Might have
Yeah.
been a little too
Maybe,
graphic.
maybe.
Yeah, you're probably
I
right.
think one of the reasons the scene was so gruesome is there was so much emotion tied to it. It wasn't just
Yeah.
battle, it wasn't just killing. It was revenge
breakup.
and vindication
sorry.
and a
It
breakup
was a
and
divorce.
it was a breakup and like there was so much emotion and so much of an unfolding future being tied to that action that you felt
Mhm.
like it had so much more of an impact than just a death.
Mhm.
I could go on
Are
forever about
we
this.
ready to talk about things we liked and didn't like about the movie?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
start us off. I really enjoyed. We not only got lore of the original 13 Primes, but we also saw them in action. However, some of their designs were a little bland. Like they
Mhm.
didn't have colors, but those who did have colors, hats off. They look great. Fantastic. Onyx, Solus, who else had colors? We had Alphatron had colors.
Megatronus.
Megatronus had colors, but some of the other ones they're just silver and gray, which felt like they could have had been something else. I think Quintus was green. Leech was not any colors, which was odd. Because
Yeah, it
White
was
and yellow.
interesting. Especially because we've had enough lore at this point between lots of different comics and lots of different books that I would have figured they would have stuck kind of with that, which they stuck with general shapes, but I feel like some of the primes didn't really have a personality attached to their colors like they frequently do.
Mhm.
It was fun to see them. I really wish we would have gotten some more info on them, because holy cow, they're cool as heck. But, man, I was just happy to
Yeah.
see the primes.
I really enjoyed there was a ton of background characters, which some were duplicated, but that's okay. Like there was a scene where I saw Lancer standing next to Orion Pax, and there was also another Lancer on a balcony. Thought that was funny.
Yeah.
We
It
don't
was
talk
fun. The
about that.
background
We don't talk about
characters
that shit.
were fun. I liked seeing, you're looking through and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so and so. Oh my gosh, that's so and so. I actually went and saw the movie with Hex, and there was one point during the race where who did they say? Who was in the race?
It was
And they said their
Tailgate.
name. Tailgate, and we both looked to each other the exact second and
Like,
go, "Oh my god, Tailgate!" It was really funny. So it was really fun seeing these characters, and of course Blur, that you know and love in a different iteration. Kind of wish
Wait,
there weren't
was
all
Blur
minors
in the
again,
movie?
but it was fun.
He went too fast and we didn't see it.
Yeah.
Oh, probably.
No, he was on the leaderboard.
Mhm.
Oh, he was on the lead. We just didn't see him. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or we
he was
didn't
going too
recognize him, but he was on the leaderboard. I think he
Okay,
ended up
okay.
winning the race actually.
No, that was
Chromia ran
Chromia.
the race.
It was
Oh, it
Chromia.
was Chromia. Thank you.
Yeah.
But Blur was on the leaderboard. Yes.
Fastest bot alive loses to Chromia.
Wow. He probably crashed.
He probably
funny.
crashed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ouch.
So- Here's my middle part of the sandwich. B127, aka Badassatron, didn't really seem like Bumblebee to me. He felt more like the actor that played him. Like I said before, kind of the same character he plays in all his other movies. The trailer and advertising for this movie is a little misleading. It makes it feel like it's just a kids movie, like strictly kids
Yes.
movie, but it is way more than that. I feel like it has kid-friendly elements, but I would say this is a movie meant for everyone. Probably mostly for the Transformers fan base, but I would say anyone could hop into it. It doesn't dump information on it that it expects you to know. It gives you all the information you need to watch the movie, I think.
I agree. I definitely concur. My middle part was I kind of struggled with the timeline. It felt like they're talking about all the stuff with the quintessons as if it's happened like a very long time ago. There's only been 50 cycles, and then this and that and this is that is happening. But I just wish they would have clarified it a little bit. But it was still really well done. I thought it was interesting how Orion started as a miner as opposed to the librarian that we usually see him as. I've always been a fan of the clear difference between like Megatron and Orion's backgrounds. You know, one is a librarian, one is a gladiator. To me, it's always been like the actual demonstration of the pen versus the sword and how they handle different things and, you know, which one ends up being mightier and how they handle it all. They still did a really, really good job with Orion as a miner. It still came off great. It did everything it needed to. It just lost that alliteration bit of the pen, the librarian, the sword, the gladiator.
I feel like it
what
did a
happens
little
when they're
nod to
pitted
it
against it?
in
Absolutely,
the
they
beginning
did.
of the movie because he was
Yes,
like
he was in the
always
Hall of
in the
Records. Yeah.
library, and he mentions that he's been there multiple times.
Yes, and that's one thing I really did love that they kept is they kept him a history nerd. And a few times he says, "Oh yes, I've seen this in the archives. Oh yes, I've watched that." Or, "Oh, according to what I read in the archives." He says that a few times. And it was a really, really nice homage to him being a librarian or a data clerk. In other iterations, it's just always been fun to see that dichotomy between the two. But it was really great.
Killobyte, Hex, you've been very quiet.
Oh, we're waiting for
I've been listening so
Vassvee to finish.
intently. I love your opinions.
Listen, I will talk for hours if you let me. Onyx knows this, which is why he cuts me off after a few minutes.
That was one of those
Scream my
minutes.
tone.
Did you pick it up?
I
Do I
did
need
pick
to-
it up. I
Do I need
promptly
to throw
cut
it at you
myself
this time?
off. No.
Well, I'll start my sentence because I don't think I even got the bun on. I really enjoyed all the character designs. I like that they're at first I thought they looked very simple, but they still felt very Cybertronian-y, especially once they get the cogs and you start seeing how the cogs actually give them their extra parts. I really enjoyed that. I loved seeing the primes. I need them to be more involved. I want to see a story where it's during the ages of the primes, because I need to know more about them. I like that it's all about like looking at conspiracy and trying to find and solve it and try to help, bring it to justice and how the wrongdoer and all that. And which I like the little nod where D16 is like, "Oh, Sentinel Prime, he's such a good leader, very charismatic." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's not gonna be bad at all." So I really like that nod there. B16 was kind of sad at the beginning where he's like, "I've been stuck down here for so long, and I have these 3 bots that I built out of junk, and they talk to me."
God.
But in a negative way for B is I feel like if he's out of the movie, he didn't really contribute anything other than just being the jokes. Because we have Orion and D16 being the focus of like their friendship, and then Elite is the one that kind of helps Optimus Rise to be being the leader, and then B 127 is just there. He just cuts doors. He has knife hands, and then he says Barazatron. So I feel like if he's gone, then nothing changes.
I'm trying to think of a
was fun.
scene, but like I can't think of a scene that would change the story if you remove him.
The only thing I
No.
can think of is that I think B was the one to help them get to the tram that would lead them up to the
Yeah,
surface. He's like,
he
"Oh, I know
was.
how to do that."
He did get them
Yeah.
outside.
That's it. That's really all
That's
I
it.
can
And I
think
feel
of.
like between Orion and D16, they probably could have figured that out.
Yeah.
Plus, Elite it probably wasn't the same floor
Right.
because that's how they
Yes,
all met up
yes.
again. So
Mhm.
yeah. Other than that, I liked Aragnet's design. The eyes were very creepy. That was an interesting take of like how her back of the head opens and
That
there's
was
more eyes
cool.
back there.
It's
Mhm.
really
That was
cool.
pretty
She's
cool.
so pretty.
Again, playing the game of who's that bot in the background? Is that
Yeah.
Sideswipe or so that was fun as well. And then I kind of knew where it was going just because of the trailers. So it's not a negative, but it's just kind of like I knew you were a villain, so I was just waiting to see the big payoff
Right.
of it being.
But it was
him
fun
with
to
it.
see how they made him the villain and what he did. You knew he was going to be bad, but you didn't know how bad.
Oh, I did.
Agreed. Yeah.
I
Hex?
wrote the story. Like I knew
Oh my gosh.
beat by
Oh,
beat.
really?
I knew he was the one that's.
Where's your
Once they
name
were
on the
like, I don't
credits,
have my
ma'am?
cog. I'm like, I bet it was Sentinel. Like, so it was pretty easy.
Well,
You're
okay.
just gonna be a Transformers lore nerd, okay?
see your name
Okay, we're different Transformers lore nerds. I can tell you everything about the aligned side of things, okay?
Yeah,
Wow,
you can do that, but I
one.
want to hear what Hex's opinion
I
or
know,
likes and
I'm not
dislikes
gonna
about
say
this
it
film.
anymore.
My turn. Just because I'm very much smaller than all of you guys doesn't mean I don't get a chance to talk. I will actually say, speaking of Transformers nerds, you guys all obviously have much more knowledge of Transformers lore than I do, but I feel like this movie is really inclusive to fans new and old.
Mhm.
It's really easy to process what's going on as a newer fan, but as an older fan, it's really, really nice that you can, yes, pick out all those background characters. Maybe this is a retelling of a story you've heard before. It just works for fans. I think it's really, really nice. As an artist, I can seriously appreciate a lot of the designs and the environments. I wish we could have seen a little bit more flora and fauna on the surface. It was really kind of a
Yes.
bummer
Yes.
that we
Mhm.
only got to
That, yeah.
see the deer, and then it was like, okay, that's done. Bye. And it's like,
Those deer were really cute.
they
They were so
were.
cute.
And I will
They had little
nitpick.
ears.
I'll nitpick a little bit. I think I wish B's design was a little different. He looks a lot like Chrome Dome from the IDW series, and maybe it's because I really like Chrome Dome, but I'm like, don't make him his own man. Don't do that. But I
It's probably the face mask. I think it's the face mask.
it's like that helmet design later on, specifically that, and I think a little bit of the shoulders, but I
Yeah.
also just it's animated really, really well. I love the voice actors. It's just
They
I
did a
think
really good job.
for putting as much plot into this movie as they did, I could nitpick a few things, but I think that they pulled it off really, really well. It sets it up for a sequel if they hopefully get the funding and the budget for one. Fingers crossed, knock
Mhm.
on wood. Whatever you have to do to make it happen, please make it happen. But if it doesn't, it still wraps up a majority of the story that it can end there,
Right.
if that makes sense.
No,
Mhm.
100%. And
It'll
then my
be
last bit I have was I was hesitant at first for a lot of the voice actors when this was first announced because a lot of them are not voice actors, they're actors. But
Mhm.
Chris Hemsworth does a fantastic job as Orion Pax / Optimus, and Brian Henry, who voices Megatron, does an excellent job as a bot going through a load of emotions, falling down to the path of destruction, like the scene I mentioned earlier where his voice cracks and he's feeling betrayed, and then he turns to the low growl of Megatron when he is filled with the confidence, and he will be the one that makes the change to Cybertron, good or bad.
Mhm.
Well done
Not
movie overall.
Not even him, though. Chris Hemsworth clearly did
Mhm.
his homework with sounding similar to Peter Cullen, but not trying to copy him. And I know that was something he had said explicitly in interviews, is he was a Transformers fan himself and very much did not want to impersonate Peter Cullen, but spent a lot of time watching him and following his style and watching Transformers again to see how he could best embody Optimus without trying to be Peter Cullen. And I think he really did a bang-up job going from the kind of softer spoken Orion to slightly deeper toned Orion to the gravitas and gravel that we hear in Optimus Prime. It was very well done.
It's very respectful, I think.
Yes, he did it very tactfully.
Here I go being negative. I enjoyed him. The only part I don't quite like is when he's given the speech. There's something about it just doesn't feel very inspiring to me. Like the speech is cool, but the way he's saying the speech or like putting it out there just doesn't quite feel good to me. I don't know why. It just there's something.
I think that's understandable.
So
Any other notes from Hex or Killobyte?
yeah,
Herb.
you want to go first?
I don't think I have anymore. I mean,
Okay.
it's just a good movie.
Yeah,
Very well
two
done.
things. I really enjoyed Shockwave being angry at Bumblebee for not stop talking, even though he was
Oh my god,
knocked
yes.
out. That was
On
one
it.
of the best lines in there. And then I think Steve Buscemi did a fine job as Starscream. I wasn't sure how it was going to be. I think the first time he talked, I was kind of like, okay, let's see how this goes. And then the more he talked, the more I felt like it was similar to the high pitch type of voice Starscream has. So I think he was pretty good.
He sounded a lot like Steve Buscemi to me, especially having seen him in a lot of movies. It was hard for me to be like, yes, that's Starscream. I was like, oh, that's Steve Buscemi in
I feel
whatever
like-
roles he's
Yeah,
been
and
in.
Optimus
I think
is Thor.
Hex and I were talking about it.
I
But he
feel
did
like-
something extra with it. Like I felt like
And
I'd heard
Megatron
the
is
exact
Lemon
same
from Bullet
voice.
Train.
Oh, I love Bullet Train.
Oh my
I
God, I
Bullet
love
Train's such a
Bullet
good movie.
Train.
So good.
I could talk about that forever. I was gonna say, I feel like a lot of the voice actors, at first, I was like, I don't know. But as I heard them progress through the movie, I warmed up to them a lot more. I was like, okay, no, I think I like this. I think this is good. I like this.
Are we ready for our last section before Rod start rating?
Ready?
Yes,
You
sir.
know I'm ready.
All right, Clickbait, you have your quick quotes. Please, can you do them justice and make them quick? Go.
I will do my darndest. It is time for Clickbait's quick quotes. Our first quote of the day is between Shockwave and Alita. When Alita asks why Bumblebee was gagged, Shockwave says, he wouldn't stop talking. Alita goes, even when he was unconscious? And Shockwave says, especially when he was unconscious. And I thought that was hysterical. Next
That
up,
was great.
I know,
Best.
and I know Kilo had said
Reminds
that.
me of
It was
someone
quite
else I
amusing.
know.
I
Hmm.
wonder
You know
who.
what? You know what? I can't help it, okay? Anyways, moving on. Sentinel was our next quick quote of the day, and it was when he was talking, and it was secretly being broadcast, where he goes, what truth? That I plucked your cogs from your newborn chests, force you to mine so that I can pay off the quintessons and live like a king? None of that matters, because the truth is what I make it. And turns out this was being broadcast the whole time. But when he said that, I was like, oh my goodness, this guy's crazy. So that was fun, and it was kind of a big turning point for a lot of the characters and the big fight scene. Super awesome. And then lastly, we have a quote from Megatron, and it's towards the end when he says, Sentinel, the betrayer, is dead, but his death has given life to a new enemy, a stronger enemy, a personal enemy. We will not be blinded by his deception. We are the ones who are. Decepticons, rise up! And it was really cool to see them create the Decepticons and the Autobots, and they did a really good job. I'm gonna do a callback. It was very similar to how they did it in the Transformers Exodus novel, which I feel like took a lot of inspiration from this and the IDW comics. So it was super fun to see it happen this way, and I really loved the conflict in it. Was that quick enough for you, sir?
Fantastic. Let's have our special guest be the first to do a Rod Star rating.
Special guest.
Oh my goodness. Wow, what a special gift to me. Thank you.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Out of 10, I think I would have to give it 9.5 out of 10. I really do want to give it a 10, but like I said, I could nitpick a few things I would like to see changed. They're pretty minor, but all in all, I really do thoroughly
see what you did
enjoy
there.
this movie.
Killobyte.
Oh, why me? Okay. For me,
Click on the quiet ones first.
I'm just waiting for everybody to stop talking. That's all. For me, I would have to give it like an 8.5 out of 10. Not that I don't want to give it a 10 out of 10, but I feel like there's still a couple things that to be like checked, or like if like the Decepticons, not the Decepticon, the Megatron part when he switches. For me, I feel this is going to be contradictory because Clickbait wants to fight me for it, but I feel like there needed to be a little bit more push. I feel like a good scene for that would have been like Megatron talking to Sentinel and being like, trying to be like, is this truth or whatever? And then he actually killed somebody in front of him and he's like, yeah, I did it or whatever. And then I feel like that would have been a good push for him to actually kind of like go mental and just try to kill everybody. But other than that, it was fun and I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, that's fair. Too bad there wasn't a cliff jumper in here to kill.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It should have been Bumblebee. It should have been
Sentinel-
Cliffjumper instead of Bumblebee.
Sentinel
Oh
did
and
my
it
kill
just
lots
killed
of people.
Bumblebee.
Sentinel did kill lots of people. It just wasn't right then and there. So that
It needed to be right there in his face.
No, it
Clickbait.
didn't.
You are up
It
next.
did.
Go.
What's up? I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 5. 9 out of 5. 9 out of 10. It was really,
Wow,
really,
9
really
out of
well.
5, huh?
You know what, Onyx? I'm trying to talk fast here, okay? You get one or the other.
She really likes the movie.
9 out of 10. Couple things I could nitpick. Couple things I wish they would have done a touch differently. Overall, really good. We'll see again. Highly recommend. Go watch it.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm torn. I want to give it a 8.5 or a 9, and I'm leaning towards a 9. There are definitely things I could nitpick, but overall, I think this is probably one of the better Transformers movies we've gotten in 40 years. Like, it is good.
Mhm.
Bumblebee, the movie, that's cute and wholesome. This is a good story.
Mhm.
Like, in the cuteness
Agreed.
factor, Bumblebee wins. But in story, character art, and growth, this one
He's
wins.
adorable.
Yeah. I
Not a
agree.
competition.
Adorable.
It's definitely better than the Bay films, which is just action
Dark Side of the
explosion.
Moon
Boom,
is
boom, boom.
number one.
No, you take that back right
And
now.
it's really good. So
All
I
right,
I might just give it a 9 out of 10. I think a 9 out of 10 makes sense to me. But listeners, what do you think of this movie? How many raw stars would you give it? Let us know by leaving a comment below. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can send us an email at swervesbarpodcast@gmail.com. That is SWERVESBAR podcast@gmail.com.
If you enjoyed this episode, consider sharing it with your friends and subscribing. If you want to help out the show even further, we've started a Patreon. All of the proceeds will go to supporting the show and keeping the lights on. Of course, we do have some tiers that offer other forms of gratitude, such as 3D files and entry to our Discord channel. You'll even get early access to our comic review videos a week before their public release. We also have a Redbubble, which includes not only Swerve's Bar merch, but some very, very cool Transformers merch, and you should check that out as well. As always, we hope you are staying safe out there. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you.
Till all are one.
Y'all are one.
Till all are one.